The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was always loud. Thousands of species talked and argued every day. They came from different worlds. They had different bodies. Some had scales, some had fur, some had no solid form at all. But today the hall was quiet, very quiet. Admiral stood near the back of the room. She was human. Her black hair was tied in a simple knot behind her head. Her uniform was gray and neat. She looked calm, but inside her heart was beating fast. The main screen at the front of the hall showed a map of the galaxy. A red dot marked the location of Earth. Another set of dots, these ones blue, showed the last known position of the Draconian fleet. The blue dots were not moving. They had not moved for 30 days. High Counselor stood at the center of the speaking platform. He was a tall creature with gray skin and 4 arms. His voice was deep and carried well across the silent hall. "We have lost all contact with the Draconian Armada," said. 300 warships, 50,000 soldiers, gone. A wave of whispers moved through the crowd, did not move. She kept her eyes on the screen. The Draconians were feared across the galaxy. They were large reptiles standing 3 meters tall. Their scales were hard like armor. Their claws could cut through metal. For 1,000 years they had conquered world after world. No one had ever stopped them. Until now. The fleet was sent to the 3rd planet of the Sol system, continued. The planet called Earth, a primitive world, Class 7 civilization, no faster than light travel, no energy shields, no advanced weapons. Another council member stood up. This was a small creature with 6 legs and bright orange eyes. How is this possible? The Draconians have destroyed empires. They have burned planets. How can a primitive world defeat them? "We do not know," admitted. "That is why we are here today." Felt eyes turning toward her. She was the only human in the room. In fact, she was one of only 3 humans in the entire Galactic Council. Earth had been discovered by accident 50 years ago. A trading ship had gotten lost and found the small blue planet. The Council had decided to watch Earth from a distance. They sent a few humans to the Council as observers, nothing more. The Draconians had other ideas. They saw Earth as easy prey, fresh meat, a simple conquest to add to their empire. They did not ask the Council for permission. They simply sent their fleet. Admiral called out, "Please step forward." Walked slowly to the center of the room. Every eye in the hall watched her. Some of those eyes showed fear. Some showed anger. Some showed confusion. She kept her face calm and empty. "You are the senior human representative," said. "What do you know about this?" Looked up at the High Counselor. "I know what you know, High Counselor. The Draconian fleet went to Earth. Now they are silent." "Do you expect us to believe that?" shouted from his seat. "Your primitive world destroyed the greatest military force in the galaxy, and you know nothing." "I did not say Earth destroyed anything," replied calmly. "I said the fleet is silent. We do not know what happened." This was true, did not know exactly what had happened, but she had ideas. She had heard stories before she left Earth. Stories about secret programs, about volunteers who gave up everything, about weapons that were not really weapons at all. She pushed those thoughts away. Now was not the time. A new voice spoke from the side of the hall. "I want to see the last transmissions." Everyone turned to look. The speaker was Lord, a Draconian noble. He was smaller than most of his kind, but his eyes burned with cold intelligence. He had stayed behind when the fleet left. Some said he was a coward. Others said he was smart. Nodded slowly. "Very well, show the final transmissions from the fleet." The screen changed. Instead of a map, it now showed a video recording. The image was grainy and jumped with static. A Draconian commander appeared on screen. His scales were dark green and his eyes were wide. "This is Fleet Commander," the recording said. "We have entered the Sol system. We are approaching the 3rd planet, Earth." The video skipped forward. Now the commander looked less confident. "The humans, they sent a message. They told us to turn back. They said we would not survive if we continued. The commander laughed, but the laugh sounded hollow. We will show them what the Draconian Empire does to those who threaten us. Another skip. Now the commander was shouting. Alarms blared in the background. They are everywhere. How are they everywhere? Our shields do nothing. Our weapons do nothing. What are these things? The video cut to static. Then it showed a different Draconian, this one younger and clearly terrified. They come through the walls. They come through the floors. You cannot see them until they are already killing. They do not stop. They do not slow down. They just keep. The recording ended. The hall was completely silent. Could hear her own breathing. She could feel the fear spreading through the room like a cold wind. Lord stepped forward. His claws clicked against the floor. "What did your people do?" he demanded, looking at. "What are those things the recording mentioned?" Met his gaze without flinching. "I do not know, Lord. I have been here at the council for 12 years. I have not been to Earth in a very long time." "You are lying," hissed. "I am telling you what I know," replied. "The truth is I am as curious as you are." This was not entirely a lie. She was curious. The stories she had heard were vague. Whispers of something called the Guardian Protocol. Rumors about humans who had changed themselves in terrible ways, but she did not know the details. Earth's government had kept many secrets, even from its own diplomats. High Counselor raised one of his 4 hands for silence. "We must send an investigation team. We need to know what happened to the fleet, and we need to know if Earth poses a threat to the rest of the galaxy." His heart tightened. She kept her voice steady. "High Counselor, with respect, I would advise caution. If something did destroy the Draconian fleet, it would be wise to approach carefully." "Are you threatening us, human?" demanded. "No," said. "I am trying to protect you. The Draconians went to Earth looking for a fight. They found something they did not expect. If the Council sends a peaceful mission, the result may be different, but if you send warships, you might meet the same fate." Considered her words. His gray face showed no emotion but could tell he was thinking carefully. The High Counselor was old and wise. He had seen many wars. He did not want another one. "We will send a small team," decided. "Scientists and diplomats. No weapons, no warships. They will investigate and report back." Lord made a sound of disgust. "This is weakness. The humans killed 50,000 Draconians. We should burn their planet to ash." "And how would you do that?" another council member asked. "Your greatest fleet is gone. What will you send next?" Had no answer. He stood there, his claws opening and closing, his eyes filled with rage, but he said nothing more. Allowed herself a small breath of relief. The council would investigate, not attack. That was good. That would give Earth time to prepare, time to decide what to tell the galaxy. As the meeting ended and the representatives began to leave, a young aide approached. The aide was from a species called the. They looked like tall birds with silver feathers. "Admiral," the aide said quietly, "you received a message from Earth. It arrived during the meeting." Took the data chip the aide offered. She did not open it in public. She walked to her private quarters, locked the door, and then activated the message. A face appeared on her personal screen. It was a man with gray hair and tired eyes, General Park, the commander of Earth's defense forces. The recording said, "By now you have heard about the Draconian fleet. I cannot tell you everything in this message. It is not secure, but I can tell you this. The Guardian Protocol worked. Earth is safe. The enemy is gone." The general paused. His face looked heavy with sorrow. "The cost was high, higher than we expected, but our people did what was necessary. When you can come home, we need to talk about what comes next." The message ended. Sat alone in the darkness of her room. She thought about Earth. She thought about her family, her friends, all the people she had left behind. She thought about the Draconian soldiers, thousands of them, dead in the cold darkness of space. She did not feel happy. She did not feel sad. She felt something in between, something heavy. Earth had survived. That was what mattered. But now the galaxy knew that humans were dangerous. Now every species would look at Earth with new eyes. Some would fear them. Some would hate them. Some would want to destroy them before they could become a larger threat. The real battle was just beginning. Stood up and walked to her window. Outside, the lights of the council station sparkled like stars. Ships came and went, carrying beings from 1,000 different worlds. Somewhere out there beyond those lights was Earth, her home, the small blue planet that had just changed everything. She did not know what the future would bring, but she knew one thing for certain: the galaxy would never see humanity the same way again. And maybe that was exactly what Earth wanted. The investigation ship was called the Seeker. It was a small vessel built for science, not war. Its hull was white and smooth. Its engines were quiet. It carried no weapons, only sensors and recording equipment. Commander Ho stood at the front of the ship, looking through the main window. He was human, tall and lean, with short black hair and dark eyes that rarely showed emotion. He wore the gray uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps, but everyone on the ship knew he was more than a diplomat. He had been a soldier once. Some said he still was. The Seeker had been traveling for 3 weeks. They had passed the outer planets of the Sol system, Jupiter, Saturn. Now they were approaching the zone where the Draconian fleet had last transmitted. "Commander," a voice said behind him, "we are detecting something ahead." Ho turned. The speaker was a scientist. Her silver feathers shimmered under the ship's lights. She looked nervous. Most of the crew looked nervous these days. "What kind of something?" Ho asked. "Metal signatures, hundreds of them. They appear to be ships." Ho nodded slowly. "The Draconian fleet, take us closer, slowly." The Seeker moved forward at reduced speed. The crew gathered at their stations, watching the sensors. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut. The first ship came into view. It was a Draconian warship, massive and deadly. Its hull was covered in black armor. Its weapons pointed in all directions. But the ship was not moving. No lights shone from its windows. No engines fired. It simply drifted through space like a dead animal floating in water. "Life signs?" Ho asked. Checked her instruments. Her feathers pressed flat against her body, a sign of fear among her people. "None, Commander. The ship is completely dead. No power, no heat, no life." They passed more ships. 10, 20, 50, all of them were the same, dark, silent, dead. The crew of the Seeker was made up of 12 beings from 8 different species. None of them had ever seen anything like this. The Draconian fleet had been the most powerful military force in the known galaxy. 300 warships, 50,000 soldiers, all gone. "This is impossible," whispered one of the crew members. He was a small blue creature with large eyes. "The Draconians have shields that can stop anything. They have weapons that can destroy moons. How could this happen?" No one answered him. No one had an answer. Ho watched the dead ships pass by. His face showed nothing, but inside he felt a strange mix of emotions: pride, sadness, fear. He knew more about what had happened here than anyone else on the Seeker. He had read the secret reports. He had heard the whispers about the Guardian Protocol. But even he did not know everything. "Let us board one of the ships," he said finally. "We need to see what happened inside." Made a soft sound of protest. "Commander is that wise. We do not know what killed these soldiers. It could still be here." "If it wanted to kill us, we would already be dead," Ho replied. "Whoever did this, they let us come this far. They are watching, waiting. I think they want us to see." The Seeker moved alongside one of the smaller Draconian ships. It was a troop carrier, designed to bring soldiers to the surface of conquered planets. A docking tube extended from the Seeker and connected to the carrier's emergency airlock. Ho led a small team onto the Draconian ship, came with him along with 2 security officers from different species. They wore breathing masks and carried scanning equipment. No weapons. The Council had been clear about that. The inside of the Draconian ship was dark. Emergency lights had failed long ago. The team used handheld lights to see. The beams cut through the darkness, revealing walls and floors covered in frost. "The temperature is below freezing," reported. "All heat escaped when the ship lost power. Everything inside would have frozen within hours." They moved deeper into the ship. The hallways were wide, built for the large Draconian bodies. Doors stood open. Equipment lay scattered on the floor. It looked like the crew had been running, panicking. They found the first body in a corridor near the medical bay. It was a Draconian soldier, still wearing his armor. He lay on his back, his claws raised as if trying to fight off something. His face was frozen in an expression of pure terror. "No external wounds," said, scanning the body. "No burns, no cuts, no signs of combat at all." "Then what killed him?" one of the security officers asked. Paused, her scanner beeped softly. "According to my readings, fear." His heart simply stopped. The stress hormones in his body were at levels I have never seen before. He was so afraid that his heart gave out. The team exchanged looks. A Draconian soldier, 3 meters of muscle and scales, trained for war since birth, died of fear. They continued their search. They found more bodies, dozens of them. Some had died like the first, their hearts stopped by terror. Others had killed themselves. A few had killed each other, apparently driven mad by whatever they had seen. But they found no enemy, no invaders, no sign of who or what had caused this. "Commander," said quietly, "I am detecting something ahead, a recording device. It is still active." They followed her scanner to the ship's command center. The bridge was a large circular room filled with control panels and screens. Most of the screens were dark, but one small device in the corner still blinked with a faint green light. Ho approached the device carefully. It was a personal recorder, the kind Draconian officers used to keep logs. Someone had placed it here deliberately. Someone had wanted this to be found. He activated the device. A hologram appeared. It showed a Draconian officer, middle-aged, with scars on his snout. His voice was calm at first, but it shook as he spoke. "This is Lieutenant of the 4th Assault Division. I am recording this because I do not think any of us will survive. I want someone to know what happened here." The hologram flickered. Lieutenant looked over his shoulder, as if afraid of being watched. "We entered the system 2 days ago. The humans sent us a message. They told us to turn back. We laughed at them. What could these primitives do against the greatest fleet ever assembled?" Paused, his eyes were haunted. "We were fools." The hologram showed images behind, ships, chaos, soldiers running and screaming. "They came at night, our night I mean. When the ship lights dimmed for rest cycle, we did not see them at first. They were shadows, just shadows. We thought our eyes were playing tricks on us." His voice dropped to a whisper. "Then the shadows started killing. They moved through walls. They came up from the floors. They appeared behind you, beside you, inside locked rooms. Our weapons did nothing. We fired and fired, but the shadows just kept coming." The recording showed brief images. Dark shapes moving too fast to see clearly. Soldiers firing blindly. Screams. "They were human," said. "At least I think they were human once. But they had changed themselves, made themselves into something else. Something that does not need light. Something that does not feel pain. Something that exists only to kill." Ho watched the hologram with a steady gaze. The others in the team had backed away from the device, their faces pale with fear. "We tried to run," continued. "Some ships managed to escape the first attack, but they hunted us. They appeared on our ships even as we flew through space. There was no escape. There was no hiding. They found us wherever we went." The lieutenant looked directly at the camera now. "I do not know who will find this recording, but if you are from the Galactic Council, I have a message for you. Do not attack Earth. Do not threaten them. Do not even think about it." His voice was firm despite the fear. The humans are not like us. They are not warriors who fight for glory or conquest. They are guardians. They protect what they love, and they will do anything, become anything, sacrifice anything to keep their world safe. Laughed bitterly. We thought we were the predators. We thought Earth was prey. We were wrong, so very wrong. The recording ended. Ho stood still for a long moment. He could feel the eyes of his team on him. They wanted answers. They wanted him to explain. Commander said softly, "What was he talking about? What are these shadows?" Ho turned to face them. His expression was still calm, but there was something else in his eyes now, something that might have been sadness. "I cannot tell you everything," he said. "Some things are not mine to share, but I can tell you this. When Earth learned that the Draconians were coming, our leaders faced a choice: fight with the weapons we had and lose, or create something new." He walked toward the exit. Volunteers came forward, thousands of them. They knew what they were agreeing to. They knew they would never be normal again. They knew they would become something that might not even be human anymore. The team followed him back through the dark corridors. They did it anyway. They did it because they had families on Earth, children, parents, loved ones. They did it because someone had to protect the people who could not protect themselves. They reached the airlock and returned to the Seeker. "The Draconians came to Earth looking for an easy victory," Ho said as the airlock sealed behind them. "They found guardians instead, humans who had given up everything to become weapons, humans who could move through shadows, pass through walls, and strike without warning." He looked out the window at the floating graveyard of Draconian ships. The soldiers on those ships never had a chance. The moment they entered our system, they were already dead. They just did not know it yet. Shook her feathers nervously. "What happens now, Commander? What do we tell the Council?" Ho thought for a moment. "We tell them the truth. Earth is not looking for war. We did not seek out the Draconians. They came to us. But we will defend ourselves against any threat at all." He turned away from the window. "Tell the Council this. Earth wants peace. We want to be friends with the galaxy. But if anyone threatens our home again, they will meet the same fate as the Draconians." He paused at the door to his quarters. No survivors, no signals, just silence. The Seeker turned and began its long journey back to the Council station. Behind them, 300 dead ships continued their endless drift through the cold darkness of space. A graveyard, a warning, a message written in silence. Earth was watching. Earth was waiting. And Earth was ready. The Council chamber had never been so full. Every seat was taken. Beings stood in the aisles, along the walls, even in the doorways. News of the Seeker's discoveries had spread across the galaxy. Everyone wanted to hear what the investigation team had found. Admiral stood near the front of the room, her hands clasped behind her back. She had not slept in 2 days. Her eyes were tired, but her posture was straight and strong. Whatever happened today, she would face it with dignity. High Counselor called the assembly to order. His 4 arms moved slowly as he spoke, a gesture that meant he was worried. "The investigation ship Seeker has returned from the Sol system. They have brought recordings, evidence. Today, we will see what really happened to the Draconian fleet." A murmur ran through the crowd. Could feel the tension. Fear mixed with anger, mixed with curiosity. The galaxy was about to learn the truth about Earth. The main screen at the front of the hall came to life. Commander Ho appeared on the display, his face calm and serious. "Council members," Ho began, "what I am about to show you is difficult to watch. I advise anyone who is sensitive to images of death and violence to leave now." No one left. Ho nodded. "Very well. These are recordings we recovered from the Draconian ships. They have been arranged in order to tell the story of what happened." The screen changed. It showed the interior of a Draconian warship, bright and filled with activity. Soldiers laughed and talked as they prepared their weapons. Officers shouted orders. The mood was confident, even excited. A voice narrated over the images. Day 1. The Draconian fleet enters the Sol system, 300 ships, 50,000 soldiers. Their mission is simple: conquer Earth, enslave the humans, add another world to the Empire. The scene shifted. Now the ships were approaching Earth. The blue planet filled the screen, beautiful and peaceful. The humans send a message. They warn the fleet to turn back. The Draconians laugh. What can these primitives do against the might of the Empire? Another shift. Now it was night cycle on the ships. The lights had dimmed. Soldiers rested in their quarters. Everything was quiet. Then the screaming started. The recording jumped and flickered. Soldiers ran through corridors. Alarms blared. Voices shouted words that made no sense. They are in the walls. Behind you, behind you. I cannot see them. Why cannot I see them? The camera caught glimpses of something, dark shapes, shadows that moved against the light instead of with it, a form that was almost human but not quite, too fast, too fluid, wrong. A soldier fired his weapon at the darkness. The energy blast lit up the corridor for a moment. In that flash of light, everyone in the council chamber saw it. A figure, human in shape, but its skin was black as space. Its eyes glowed like dying stars. It moved like smoke, flowing around the weapon fire as if the shots were moving through water. Then the light faded and the shadow was gone. The soldier who had fired screamed once, then fell silent. The recording continued. More ships, more death. Soldiers fighting enemies they could not see. Officers trying to give orders while their crews died around them. Some tried to seal themselves in rooms. The shadows came through the walls. Some tried to flee in escape pods. The shadows were waiting for them outside. High Counselor raised a hand. Stop the recording. The screen froze. The council chamber was deathly quiet. Could see the fear on hundreds of faces. These were beings who had fought wars, conquered planets, and ruled empires. Now they looked like children afraid of the dark. Commander Ho said, his voice unsteady, "What are those things, those shadow creatures?" Ho's face remained calm on the screen. "They are human, High Counselor, or they were. They volunteered for a process called the Guardian Protocol. It changed them, made them into something different." "Different how?" demanded. Ho paused before answering. "The Guardian Protocol allows a human to exist partially outside normal space. They can move through solid matter. They can become invisible to most forms of detection. They do not need food, water, or sleep. They feel no pain. They know no fear." The council chamber erupted in noise. Shouting, demands, questions, had to call for silence 3 times before order was restored. Lord pushed his way to the front of the crowd. The Draconian noble scales had gone pale, a sign of intense emotion among his kind. "You have created monsters," he hissed, "weapons of mass murder. This is a crime against the galaxy." Stepped forward. She could not stay silent any longer. "Lord, your people sent a fleet to conquer my world. They came to enslave and kill billions of innocent humans. We defended ourselves." "By turning your own people into demons," shouted. "By doing what was necessary," replied firmly. "The volunteers who became guardians knew exactly what they were giving up: their normal lives, their ability to touch their loved ones, their chance to ever be truly human again. They sacrificed everything to protect Earth." Laughed bitterly. "And now you have an army of shadows. What will stop you from using them against the rest of us?" "We have no desire to attack anyone," said. "Earth wants peace. We want to trade, to learn, to grow alongside the other species of the galaxy. But we will not be victims. Never again." The council continued to argue for hours. Some demanded that Earth be isolated. Some wanted to form an alliance against the humans. Some called for peace and diplomacy. Some simply sat in stunned silence, unable to process what they had seen. Through it all, watched and waited. She answered questions when asked. She remained calm when accused. She did not apologize. Finally, as the session was about to end, a new voice spoke up. It was soft but somehow carried through the entire chamber. "I have a question." Everyone turned. The speaker was small, barely a meter tall, with pale green skin and large dark eyes. Recognized the species. They were ancient, one of the oldest races in the galaxy. They rarely spoke at council meetings. The representative walked slowly to the center of the chamber. Her movements were careful, deliberate. "My name is Elder," she said. "I have lived for 900 years. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have witnessed the birth of new species and the death of old ones." She looked up at the screen where Ho's image still waited. "Commander, you say these guardians sacrifice their humanity to protect Earth, but I must ask, what happens to them now? The battle is over. The Draconians are dead. What do the guardians do when there is no one left to fight?" Ho was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer than before. "They wait, Elder. They drift through the empty spaces around Earth. They watch the stars for any sign of danger. They cannot return to normal life. They cannot hold their families or walk in the sunlight. They exist in the shadows, forever on guard." Elder nodded slowly. "And do they regret their choice?" "Some do," Ho admitted. "Some have asked to be ended. We honor their request when they make it. Others have found peace in their new existence. They see themselves as protectors, guardians in truth, not just in name." The old turned to face the council. "I have heard many speeches today about threats and dangers and monsters, but I have also heard something else, something that many of you seem to have missed." She spread her small hands. "The humans did not create these guardians out of hatred or ambition. They created them out of love. Love for their families. Love for their world. Love so strong that ordinary people agreed to stop being human in order to protect those they cared about." Elder looked at. Her dark eyes seemed to see everything. "Is that not the most beautiful and terrible thing? To love something so much that you would give up everything you are to keep it safe?" The chamber was silent. "I have a suggestion for this council," Elder continued. "Instead of treating Earth as an enemy, perhaps we should treat them as an example, not the guardians themselves, but the spirit behind them, the willingness to sacrifice, the determination to protect." She walked back toward her seat. "The Draconians came to Earth thinking they were predators. They discovered they were wrong. But I do not think the humans are predators either. I think they are something else entirely, something the galaxy has not seen before." She sat down heavily, as if the speech had tired her. "I think they are survivors, and I think we would be wise to have them as friends rather than enemies." The session ended shortly after. No decisions were made. The council would need days, perhaps weeks, to process everything they had learned. Left the chamber and walked through the station's corridors. Her mind was full of thoughts, the recordings, the arguments, Elder's words. She found a quiet observation deck and stood alone, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth continued its slow spin around the sun, her home, her people. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, the guardians waited. Silent shadows, watching, protecting. They could never go home. They could never hold the people they loved. But they kept those people safe, and that was enough. Thought about the volunteers who had given up everything. She thought about the families they had left behind, the children who would never see their parents again, the lovers who could never touch. Was it worth it? She did not know. She was not sure anyone could know. But Earth had survived. The Draconians were gone, and humanity had proven to the galaxy that they would not be conquered, not by anyone, not ever. That had to count for something. Her communicator beeped. A message from General Park. "The Council has agreed to send a diplomatic mission to Earth. They want to talk. This is our chance to show the galaxy who we really are." Read the message twice, then she allowed herself a small smile. Perhaps there was hope after all. The diplomatic ship landed on Earth on a cold morning in December. Snow covered the ground and frost hung in the air like tiny crystals. Admiral stepped off the ship first, breathing in the smell of her home planet for the first time in 12 years. Behind her came the council delegation. High Counselor himself had come, along with elder and representatives from 30 different species. Even Lord was there, though he looked like he would rather be anywhere else. A group of humans waited on the landing pad. At their head stood General Park, older than remembered, with more gray in his hair and more lines on his face. But his eyes were still sharp, and his handshake was still firm. "Welcome home, Admiral," he said. "I wish it were under better circumstances." "The circumstances are what we make of them," General replied. "Where are we going?" "The mountain facility. It is time to show our guests the truth." They traveled by ground vehicle through the snow-covered landscape. The alien delegates watched through the windows with mixed expressions. Some seemed fascinated by Earth's natural beauty. Others scanned the horizon nervously, as if expecting shadows to attack at any moment. The facility was hidden inside a mountain range. From the outside, it looked like nothing special, just rocks and trees and snow. But when the vehicles entered a hidden tunnel and descended deep underground, the true scale of the place became clear. The main chamber was enormous. It stretched for kilometers in every direction. Machines hummed and glowed with soft blue light. Thousands of humans worked at stations throughout the space, monitoring screens and adjusting controls. And in the center of it all, floating in massive tanks filled with dark liquid, were the Guardians. Heard gasps from the alien delegates. She understood their reaction. The Guardians were not easy to look at. Their bodies were human in shape but wrong in every detail. Their skin was black, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Their eyes were closed, but the sockets seemed too large, too deep. Their limbs were longer than they should be, with too many joints. They drifted in the tanks like sleeping nightmares. "There are 10,000 Guardians in this facility," General Park explained. "Another 20,000 are deployed around the solar system. They do not need sleep, but they enter this rest state when there is no immediate threat. It saves energy." High Counselor approached one of the tanks slowly. His 4 hands trembled slightly. These beings were once normal humans. "Yes," Park confirmed. "The transformation is irreversible. Once someone becomes a Guardian, they cannot go back." Lord made a sound of disgust. "You turned your own people into monsters. How do you sleep at night?" General Park turned to face the Draconian noble. His expression was calm but cold. "I sleep very well, Lord, because I know that every child on Earth is safe. Every family can go to bed without fear. Every person can live their life in peace. The Guardians made that possible." He gestured to a side room. "Perhaps you would like to understand better. Let me introduce you to someone." They followed Park into a smaller chamber. This one had chairs arranged in a circle like a meeting room. In one of the chairs sat a woman. She looked normal, completely human, with short black hair and kind eyes. "This is Dr. Myra," Park said. "She helped create the Guardian Protocol, and she can explain what it means to become a Guardian." Dr. Myra smiled at the delegates. "Please sit down. I know you have many questions." The delegates found seats, remained standing near the door watching. "The Guardian Protocol was developed over 50 years, Dr. Myra began. "We knew that Earth would eventually be discovered by the galaxy. We knew that some species would see us as weak, as prey. We needed a way to defend ourselves." She pressed a button, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the room. It showed a human body, normal and healthy. The transformation works at the deepest level of the body. We use technology that rewrites the basic structure of cells. The process takes 3 months and is extremely painful. The hologram changed. The human body began to shift and darken. The Guardian's body learns to exist partially outside of normal space. They can pass through solid matter. They can become invisible. They can move at speeds that seem impossible. What about their minds? Elder asked softly. Do they remember who they were? Dr. Myra nodded slowly. Yes, that is perhaps the hardest part. They remember everything. Their families, their homes, the feeling of sunshine on their skin. They remember what it was like to be human, and they can never have those things again. Leaned forward. Then why would anyone volunteer for this? May I answer that? A new voice said. Everyone turned. Standing in the doorway was a figure that made several delegates cry out in alarm. It was a guardian, but unlike the ones in the tanks, this one was awake and moving. He was tall and thin, his dark form seeming to absorb the light around him. His eyes glowed with soft white light. He moved slowly, carefully, as if he knew how frightening he looked. Please do not be afraid, he said. His voice was strange, like many whispers layered together. I will not harm you. General Park stepped forward. Council members, this is Jinsung. He was one of the first volunteers for the Guardian Protocol. He agreed to speak with you today. Jinsung bowed his head slightly. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity. I know I look frightening. I know you have seen what we did to the Draconians, but I hope you will listen to my story. He moved to the center of the room, his dark form rippling like smoke. 22 years ago, I was a teacher. I taught children. I had a wife and a daughter. I lived a simple, happy life. The Guardian paused. When he continued, his voice was filled with emotion. Then we learned that the Draconians had discovered Earth. We learned that they were building a fleet to conquer us. We learned that our technology could not stop them. His glowing eye moved across the faces of the delegates. The government came to us with a choice. They explained the Guardian Protocol. They told us what it would mean. We would gain the power to protect Earth, but we would lose everything else. Jinsung raised one of his dark hands and looked at it. I thought about my daughter. She was 7 years old. She had just started school. She loved to draw pictures and sing songs. She trusted me to keep her safe. His hand clenched into a fist. What would you do if someone told you that your world was about to be destroyed, that everyone you loved would be killed or enslaved, but there was a way to stop it? What would you sacrifice? No one answered. I became a guardian because I could not do nothing. I could not sit and wait for the enemy to come. I could not let my daughter become a slave. Jinsung lowered his hand. The process was agony, 3 months of pain that I cannot describe, 3 months of feeling my body change, my humanity slip away. There were moments when I wanted to die. He looked at. But every time I wanted to give up, I thought about my daughter's face. I thought about her laughter, her smile, the way she called me daddy when she was scared. And I kept going. Elder rose from her chair and walked toward the Guardian. She showed no fear. She reached up and placed her small hand on his dark arm. What happened to your daughter? She asked gently. Jinsung was silent for a moment. She is alive. She is 30 years old now. She has children of her own. I watch over them sometimes from a distance. They do not know I am there. Have you ever spoken to her since your transformation? Once. Jinsung's voice cracked. Right after I completed the process, I went to see her to say goodbye. The room was completely silent. She was 9 years old. She looked at me and she screamed. She did not recognize me. How could she? I was a monster. Her father was gone. Jinsung turned away. My wife held her and tried to calm her down. She told her it was okay, that I was still daddy, that I would always love her. But I could see the fear in my daughter's eyes, the fear of me. He walked to the window and looked out at the vast chamber beyond. I never went back. I thought it was better that way, better for her to grow up without the memory of what her father had become. Lord spoke, his voice uncertain. You gave up everything, your body, your family, your life, and you never even asked for gratitude. Jinsung turned back to face the Draconian. I did not do it for gratitude. I did it because it was right. Because someone had to protect the people who could not protect themselves. Because that is what humans do. We sacrifice for those we love. He moved closer too. Your fleet came to Earth to conquer us. 50,000 soldiers, 300 warships. You thought we would be easy prey. Jinsung's eyes glowed brighter. We killed them all, not because we wanted to, not because we enjoyed it, but because we had no choice. They would not turn back. They would not listen to reason, so we did what we had to do. He stepped back. I have killed thousands of your people, Lord. I remember every single one. I remember their faces, their screams, their final moments. I carry that weight every day. It never gets lighter. Jinsung looked at all the delegates in turn. But I would do it again. I would do it 1,000 times, because my daughter is safe, because Mike can grow up without fear, because Earth survived. He bowed his head. That is why I became a guardian. That is why all of us became guardians, not for glory, not for power, for love. The room remained silent long after Jinsung finished speaking. The delegates looked at each other, processing what they had heard. Finally, High Counselor stood. He walked to Jinsung and looked up at the towering dark figure. I came here afraid, admitted. I saw your kind destroy a fleet that could have conquered half the galaxy. I thought you were monsters. He bowed his head. I was wrong. You are not monsters. You are something far more dangerous. You are parents who would do anything to protect your children. Warriors who fight not for conquest but for love. Raised his head and looked Jinsung in the eyes. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I offer my respect, and my hope that we can find a path to peace. Jinsung's dark face shifted into something that might have been a smile. That is all we have ever wanted, High Counselor, peace, a chance to live in the galaxy as friends, not enemies. Watch the exchange with tears in her eyes. After years of fear and secrets and tension, maybe there was finally hope. Maybe the galaxy could learn to accept humanity, guardians and all. Maybe the sacrifice had been worth it after all. 1 year had passed since the Council delegation visited Earth. 1 year of negotiations, treaties, and careful diplomacy. Now, at last, the moment had arrived. Commander Ho stood at the speaking platform in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council. Every seat was filled. Billions more watched through transmission across the galaxy. Ho took a deep breath. He thought about everyone who had sacrificed to bring them to this moment. The guardians who had given up their humanity. The families who had lost loved ones. The soldiers on both sides who had died in a conflict that should never have happened. He would speak for all of them. Council members, he began, his voice steady and clear. Distinguished representatives, citizens of the galaxy, thank you for allowing me this opportunity to address you. He looked around the vast chamber. So many different species, so many different worlds, all of them watching, waiting to hear what humanity had to say. 1 year ago, the Draconian fleet attacked Earth. 300 warships, 50,000 soldiers. They came to conquer us, to enslave our people, to add our world to their empire. Ho paused. They failed. A murmur ran through the crowd. Ho raised his hand for silence. What happened to that fleet shocked the galaxy. You saw beings that were once human transformed into something else, something that moved through shadows and killed without mercy. You saw the destruction of the greatest military force ever assembled. He looked directly at Lord, who sat in the Draconian section. Many of you were afraid. Some of you still are. You wonder if Earth will use our guardians against other worlds. You wonder if we will become conquerors ourselves. Ho shook his head slowly. I am here today to tell you that will not happen, and I am here to explain why. He pressed a button on the podium. A holographic image appeared behind him. It showed Earth, beautiful and blue, floating in the darkness of space. This is our home. For all of human history, this one small planet has been everything to us. We were born here. We grew here. We built our civilizations here. Every human who has ever lived has looked up at the same sky, walked on the same ground, breathed the same air. The image zoomed out, showing the solar system, then the local star cluster, then the entire galaxy. And then we learned that we were not alone, that the universe was full of life, species that had been traveling between stars for thousands of years while we were still learning to make fire. Ho smiled slightly. Some of you looked at us and saw primitives, backward creatures on a small world at the edge of the galaxy. You thought we had nothing to offer, nothing to fear. His smile faded. The Draconians thought that too. They looked at Earth and saw easy prey. They did not bother to learn about us. They did not try to understand who we were or what we valued. They simply assumed we would surrender when faced with overwhelming force. Ho turned to face the crowd more fully. They were wrong, and their mistake came from a fundamental misunderstanding of human nature. He began to walk slowly across the platform as he spoke. Humans are not warriors by nature. We do not seek conflict. We do not enjoy violence. Throughout our history, the greatest heroes have been those who built things, healed people, and brought communities together. Our most celebrated achievements are in art, science, and exploration. He stopped and faced the assembly again. But when our families are threatened, when our homes are in danger, when the people we love face destruction, we transform. The hologram changed. It showed images from human history, ordinary people standing against armies, parents protecting children, communities rebuilding after disasters. Humans will do anything to protect those we love. We will sacrifice our comfort, our safety, our lives. We will change ourselves in ways that seem impossible. We will become whatever we need to become. The hologram showed the Guardians now, dark figures floating in their tanks, silent shadows watching the stars. The Guardian Protocol is an extreme example of this human trait. Our volunteers gave up their normal lives, their bodies, their connection to the world they loved. They became something that even we find difficult to understand. Ho's voice grew softer. But they did it out of love. Every Guardian, without exception, made their choice because they wanted to protect someone. A child, a spouse, a parent, a friend. They could not bear the thought of those people being hurt, so they offered themselves as shields. He looked at Jinsung, who stood in the back of the chamber, his dark form barely visible in the shadows. That is what the galaxy needs to understand about humanity. We are not monsters. We are not conquerors. We are protectors. We defend what we love. Ho returned to the podium. Earth has no desire for empire. We do not want to rule the galaxy or dominate other species. We want to trade with you, learn from you, share our culture with yours. We want to be friends. His voice hardened. But I must be clear about one thing. If any species, any fleet, any force threatens Earth again, they will meet the same fate as the Draconians. The chamber was silent. Our Guardians are still out there, watching, waiting. They do not sleep. They do not tire. They do not forget. Every ship that enters our solar system is tracked. Every transmission is monitored. We know who comes and who goes. Ho leaned forward. We hope we never have to use them again. We hope the galaxy has learned from the Draconian mistake. But hope is not a strategy. We will remain vigilant. We will remain ready. He straightened up. So here is my message to the galaxy. Earth wants peace. We extend our hand in friendship to every species that approaches us with respect. We offer our knowledge, our creativity, our unique perspective on the universe. His eyes swept across the assembly. But if you come with weapons drawn and conquest in your hearts, you will find only silence. No survivors, no signals, just the cold emptiness of space and the memory of your mistake. Ho stepped back from the podium. That is all I have to say. Thank you for listening. For a long moment, no one moved. Then slowly, Elder rose from her seat. She walked to the center of the chamber and faced Ho. "Commander," she said, "I have lived a very long time. I have seen species rise and fall. I have watched empires crumble and new civilizations emerge from the ashes." She turned to address the assembly. "In all my years, I have never encountered a species quite like humanity. You are young by galactic standards, barely out of your cradle in cosmic terms, and yet you have already shown wisdom that many ancient species lack." She smiled at Ho. "You understand that true strength is not about domination. It is about protection, about love, about the willingness to sacrifice for others." Elder raised her voice. "I move that the Galactic Council accept Earth as a full member, not despite what they have done, but because of it. We need voices like theirs in our assembly. We need reminders of what it means to truly care about something." The motion was seconded, then thirded, then a dozen more species added their support. High Counselor called for a vote. The result was not even close. Earth was accepted into the Galactic Council by an overwhelming margin. Even Lord voted in favor, though he looked like he had swallowed something bitter. As the assembly erupted in discussion and celebration, Admiral made her way to where Ho stood. She had tears in her eyes. "You did it," she said. "We are part of the galaxy now, really part of it." Ho nodded slowly. "The hard work is just beginning. We have to prove that we meant what we said, that we truly want peace." "We will," said, "I know we will." She looked toward the back of the chamber, where Jinsung still waited in the shadows. "What about the Guardians? What happens to them now?" Ho followed her gaze. "They continue to watch, continue to wait. That will not change. But maybe, over time, the galaxy will come to see them as we do, not as monsters but as heroes, as people who gave up everything for those they loved." Jinsung noticed them looking. He raised one dark hand in a small wave, then faded deeper into the shadows, watching, protecting, as he always would. Outside the council station, ships began to launch toward Earth, trade delegations, cultural missions, scientists eager to study the strange little planet that had defeated an empire. The future was uncertain, but it was also full of possibility. On Earth, in the mountain facility, the Guardians continued their quiet vigil. Some floated in their tanks, resting. Others drifted through the darkness of space, watching for any sign of danger. They did not celebrate the Council's decision. They did not need recognition or praise. They only needed to know that their families were safe, that the children they had left behind could grow up in peace, that their sacrifice had meant something. And it truly had. Years would pass, decades, centuries. Earth would grow and change and become a respected member of the galactic community. Humans would travel to distant stars, meet countless species, and build connections across the universe. But the Guardians would always be there, silent protectors, watching from the shadows, a reminder of what humanity was capable of when the things they loved were threatened. No survivors, no signals, just love, and a promise that would never be broken. In a small house on Earth, an old woman looked out her window at the night sky. She was 82 years old now, with white hair and gentle eyes. She had lived a good life. She had children and in great. But sometimes, late at night, she thought about her father, the man who had become a shadow to save her, the man she had not seen since she was 9 years old. She did not know that he was there, just outside her window, invisible and silent, watching over her as he had watched over her every night for more than 70 years. Jinsung looked at his daughter through the glass. He could not touch her, could not speak to her, could not let her know he was there. But he could protect her, he could keep her safe, he could love her from the darkness. And that would have to be enough. It was enough. It had always been enough.